Despite having a unique power to block all incoming ESP attacks, finds himself trapped within a prison. With all hope seems lost, a mysterious man appears at the prison, with a hidden motive allowing Andy to escape. Now, with the choice to join the world's most dangerous ESP organization, he is forced to choose between good or evil. Episode 1. Despite countless military efforts, our protagonist Kyusuke is able to easily avoid any incoming artillery. With psychic powers ruling the world, Kyusuke has no rival when it comes to power. On the other hand, at a prison off the coast, a group of prisoners are seen betting on fights. One of the prisoners, Andy, finds himself amidst this fight, getting beat down. He tries to escape, but he is pushed back and giving him the boost to sucker punch his opponent. With 7 total matches, Andy has proved his worth by winning all of them, with just a chocolate bar being his reward. Andy gets enraged once he sees a new Esper arrive. With his cocky appearance and laid-back way of speaking, Kyusuke wastes no time making his name known in the prison. Kyusuke informs the prison warden that he doesn't need to listen to him. The guards ready their guns and ask if he wants to try them. However, Kyusuke doesn't falter. He walks forward, eventually arriving at Andy, who introduces himself to Kyusuke. Kyusuke notices his special eyes and tells the guards behind him to stop bugging him. He then uses his psychic to pick up a helicopter. However, the prison has an ESP jammer, forcing him to drop the copter. Along with Kyusuke, Andy ends up in solitary confinement, being blamed for destroying the helicopter as well. While the two wait for their time to be up, Andy shares a bit about his life with Kyusuke. Despite being an Esper himself, he hates them and wishes there were no Espers in the world. Andy tells Kyusuke that once he gets out, he will team up with him, thinking nothing of it. Kyusuke, however, has different plans, telling Andy once he finishes what he came for, he will leave. Later that day, the guards talk amongst each other, wondering how they can inflict some pain on Kyusuke. Once the chef sees him get to the front of the line, he attempts to poison Kyusuke, however he outsmarts them. Having noticed the poison go into it, he gives it off for Andy to eat. After lunch, they head outside to their usual inmate activities, fighting over chocolate bars. Instead of his usual strength, Andy this time gets beaten to a pulp, making him wonder what's wrong with him. Kyusuke then informs him that he poisoned him, offering to get him outside by sending him to the hospital. Once Andy awakes, however, he finds Kyusuke alongside him with all the doctors knocked out. Kyusuke explains that this is the so-called hospital, but it's really where they experiment on Espers. Then tells Andy he is free to do what he wants, him having his own business to attend to. Although Andy's Esper skills are very weak, he has been trained by the military, giving him the strength to easily overpower guards. Before we continue, let's take a moment to answer the question of the day. Would you become a criminal and abuse your strength if you had ESP powers? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video. Now back to the recap. After this, the two arrive at a large room containing something in the middle. Upon inspecting the area, Kyusuke gets enraged. He starts destroying everything in the room. Once the gun is out of ammo and only the glass box remains, he decides to approach it. Hidden within is a small girl who has been experimented on. Before he is able to break the glass, the warden enters the room, informing Kyusuke and Andy this is the end of their little stunt. They don't back down, however, telling the warden he is a despicable human. He then snaps, which causes a monster to appear from behind him. The warden reveals this as his ultimate weapon, having merged powers with the strongest soldier. Kyusuke doesn't see him as a worthy opponent, however, attempting to destroy him instantly. The soldier shows some resilience, however, evading Kyusuke's attacks and striking back. During the fight, Andy decides to go and pick up the gun, hoping to snipe it mid-air. As the battle goes on, Kyusuke is eventually hit with a bombardment of ESP waves, knocking him into the glass box. The warden laughs at Kyusuke, telling him his soldier is a level 7 warrior. Kyusuke, however, still remains calm, telling the warden that a level 7 stands no chance against him, and he then strikes the soldier, which diverts its attention to him. Soldier sends in an attack, but the previously thought to be Esperless, and he uses a hidden power to deflect the attack. Kyusuke then inspects his subordinate's arm, finds all the bruises from the experiments. This angers him, so he decides to unleash his ultimate power, overflowing with magic. Having unleashed his sealed power, Kyusuke marches towards the warden and soldier confidently. With every attack being nullified, it seems like Kyusuke's leveled up form is too hard for the soldier to handle. Kyusuke ends the soldier's life with ease, now causing the warden to be shocked. Kyusuke then emerges before him, pays him back for punching him in the face when he arrived on the island. He destroys not only the two of them, but the entirety of the facility, making it seem like a bomb exploded where they were. Kyusuke then seals his mysterious power and walks to the shore to board his boat. first, there is nothing to be seen. Once Kyusuke knocks on the air, a boat appears. A modern design and size to rival a cruise ship, and he wonders just who Kyusuke really is. Following this, a man emerges and announces to the prisoners they have destroyed the government's prison, thus granting them freedom. Kyusuke, on the other hand, decides to try and keep Andy close by for the ride. He offers him a job on his boat. Andy accepts gracefully, still unsure what he is getting himself into. Later that night, Kyusuke's right-hand man questions his motives, seeming to know something special about Andy. During this, Andy hides deep within the boat to report to his superior of his successful entry into Pandra, the organization run by Kyusuke. Episode 2. Later that week, we saw Andy getting more and more accustomed to living with the criminal organization. He stares at one of the girls on the ship, which angers Kyusuke, causing him to push Andy into the pool. Kyusuke then brings a shark into the pool, telling Andy he needs to learn how to fight. Since boarding the ship, Andy has met a majority of the members and displayed his skills to the others. With an ability that negates ESP attacks, he's considered a valuable asset to the team. Kyusuke then tells them that's not all, asking the small girl Yugiri if she can read his mind. Despite her powerful abilities, his ability counters his as well, making her head hard. Kyusuke then informs them that because of this, if you get too close to Andy, his ability will start to affect you. Following this, Andy follows behind one of the members, guiding him to their next meeting. While on the way, a couple of children run by, making Andy wonder if this really is the world's largest criminal organization. Andy is then left to do what he wants, with the exception of going to a designated area. Someone overhears him talking and forces him to go clean the deck. Andy complies for some reason, knowing that he is the newbie. Later that day, Andy complains to his superior, telling them he has just been cleaning the boat. He asks if it really is the world's largest criminal investigation, which his boss explains that every member on the ship is dangerous. He wonders, however, if he should really fear them, knowing that they have been nice so far. Yusuke, on the other hand, meets with Magi, who explains more of Andy's past. For the most part, it all adds up. However, there are still some plot holes, making Magi still not able to trust Andy. Yusuke proposes another idea, however, offering to go break the law the next day. The group arrive at a town that uses boats as a means of transportation, and they head into a secret base. Once they get there, they inspect the contents within the crates and find caviar and figurines. Farther in the back, however, Andy sees weapons and famous paintings in their possession. Yusuke then informs Andy they will be doing a trade, asking Magi to check out the area. As he flies through the area, arrives at a building where he is able to eliminate one of their threats with ease. After killing 2 associates, more arrive, causing Magi to get cornered. Later that day, the others eat at a cafe, wondering what happened to Magi, eventually deciding to go after him. Everyone leaves, but Kyusuke causes him to order Andy to hurry along as well. Once Andy runs away, he hears a voice instructing him where to go, eventually leading him to another Pandra member. Here all sound is blocked, allowing Pandra to fight the other organization without disturbing others. With the last associate being slammed into a wall, Andy is surprised by how strong Pandra really is. After this, Kyusuke goes and meets with the leader of this organization. Despite them being on friendly terms, Kyusuke plans for Andy to snipe out the other boss. Before this happened, Kyusuke informed Andy that this was his first mission. Andy protests, however, he is forced to take on the mission, knowing his cover will be blown if he misses. He gets ready to take the shot. Another one of the Pandra members, Fujiura, appears. He informs Andy he will block the sound, putting everything into his hands. While meeting, Andy realizes that despite Kyusuke's looks, he's actually close to 80 years old, making him similar in age to the other boss. During their conversation, Magi informs Kyusuke that they have made arrangements with the police. He tells Andy to take the shot, but he hesitates, forcing Kyusuke to initiate his backup plan. He appears behind Andy and asks him why he wasn't able to shoot. Instead of injuring Andy, however, he presents a limiter for him to use. Andy wonders what the motive is, but realizes once Kyusuke points to another building. Hidden within was the real boss of the other organization, whose powers were blocked by Andy's power. During this, Kyusuke announces why he does what he does, have been killed once he fears nothing, forcing the other boss to initiate his attack. Yusuke, however, blocks this with ease and activates his limiter, revealing his true power. Yusuke then uses this power to end his old friend's life with ease, and thus destroying the city. This cleared up, Kyusuke heads over to the boat, not caring about the damage he caused. Andy, however, is stunned to see just how much damage occurred within the city, it all being in ruins. Later this week, Magi orders Yugiri to investigate Andy, still not being sure of his authenticity. Yugiri rejects his request, however, giving Andy more time to stay low within the organization. During this, Andy eats dinner with the other Pandra members, realizing how close they all are. He knows, despite how friendly they seem, they cause damage like the city they were just in, making them dangerous criminals. Kyusuke then approaches and offers a cheer to his group, hoping to celebrate their successful ventures. Episode 3. Within a small European country, various high-ranking espers meet together for a large event. This includes 2 foreigners who are here at the event in regards to their country. Also at the event is Kyusuke and Magi, making all the other espers seem like chump change. However, with each country's top-ranking esper being present, it's not going to be easy to make any sudden movements. Kyusuke recognizes them and introduces the 2 men as Minamoto and Sakaki, members of Bobble. The Bobble members ask Kyusuke what he is doing here. It's not an event for criminals. Kyusuke then attempts to leave after being discovered. However, Sakaki grabs his collar. He tries to make a scene, however, with all the onlookers he decides to let Kyusuke go for today. Before he walks out, he snaps, flashing the lights off and revealing spray paint on the wall. It reads, "Sandra was here," making the officials of the event nervous. Bable members go to meet with the organizers and offer their help in any way they can. During this, a guard enters the room and shows the video of what happened, including that Pandra kidnapped the princess. Then ask if they can count on Bobble, which Sakaki shows a drive he has already stolen. Little does he know, however, this is all a part of Kyusuke's plan, making you wonder what's on the drive. Princess, on the other hand, wakes up to the Pandra members explaining the situation, inform her that they won't harm her, they simply want their demands met, they will let her go. Although they won't hurt her, this doesn't mean the men won't look at her lustfully, including even Andy. This leads to the princess wondering what they want to. Kyusuke explains that Yugiri wanted to meet her. The princess then invites them to work for her country, all espers being welcomed within it. Kyusuke doesn't fall for this, however, telling the Pandra members they have a job to do. They all leave, making the princess the only one in the room, making you wonder what their next plan is. Japan's top esper organization, Bobble, finally decides to explore the contents of the drive. After opening it, Sakaki finds a game within it, so he decides to play it and tell the others he has to beat it to examine the drive. Yugiri, on the contrary, meets with the princess, who offers to tell her a story. After inviting her to sit next to her, the 2 talk until we transition to Andy, wondering why they kidnapped her. With assassins in the area, Yugiri proposes they kidnap her in order to save her from the killers. Only good motives in mind, Andy becomes perplexed yet again on how the organization works. During this, the other Pandra members search the town to try and find the assassins, however they have no such luck. The princess then enters the room alongside them and asks if she can take Yugiri outside. Andy protests at first, however Kyusuke decides to let Yugiri make the decision. She informs Kyusuke that she wants to go outside, offering to protect the princess herself. During this, the Bable members get super close to clearing the game, only for one of them to die early. Amidst the game, the organizer enters the room to tell look outside. After doing so, he finds tons of princesses around the city, making him wonder what's going on. Fujiura, on the contrary, does his magic with his super-sensitive hearing ESP, allowing Pandra to find the assassin's location one by one. During this, Yugiri goes on her little date with the princess, leaving only Andy to guard the 2 of them. Yusuke calls him, reminds him not to mess up, also informing him that the people he subdued are just a random organization. With this assassination turning out to be bigger than expected, Yusuke prepares for the worst. Sakaki, on the other hand, finally clears the game, so he decides to inspect the drive where he finds various records. Being filled with classified information on the princess's country, the organizer closes the laptop instantly, apologizes, but informs the Bobble members they can't inspect the contents. Minamoto, however, still thinks what it could be after analyzing the information he has. He comes to a conclusion, but it seems like it's too late once Andy arrives at an orphanage. The princess thanks Yugiri for following her, asking her if she was the girl who disappeared suddenly years back. Before Yugiri was even a Pandra member, she had powerful esper abilities, making even the princess impressed. The 2 exchange a hug after finally being comfortable enough with each other. Following this, members of the princess's guard approach, including the main assassin. He shoots, but Andy takes the bullet, leaving the man to explain his motives. He tells the princess that espers deserve to die, rather than using all of their country's budget on it. Before he can pull to trigger again to finish the princess off, Yugiri unleashes her power, showing Kyusuke isn't the only strong Pandra member. Before she has to act, however, Kyusuke appears before them and takes out the assassin. Thanks Yugiri for protecting the princess despite them being in a tough situation. The princess then thanks Kyusuke for saving her, offering him to take care of Yugiri. Minamoto then emerges and asks Kyusuke if he needed to do all this just to protect the princess. But before he gets an answer, Kyusuke disappears just as mysteriously as he appeared. Sakaki, on the other hand, meets up with one of the palace guards, asking her to hang out with him for a bit, showing his rotten personality. Kyusuke, however, talks with Andy and informs him that he needs to do his job better, asking why he always has to come in clutch. Episode 4. Following this, Kyusuke meets with other officials talking about a certain someone. Andy, on the other hand, still plays his role as a rat, spilling all the information he can to his boss. He's informed of the contents of an item on the Pandra boat, instructed to get that item. Andy decides with this information he will start really working. Bauble, on the other hand, prepares their attack on Kyusuke, sending in a chopper filled with espers. Andy decides to investigate the boat further with the others. Busy, however, he is caught by his superior. Andy is forced to leave this area anyways when Babel attacks the boat. 3 girls dressed in high school uniforms board the boat and go crazy, dropping members like flies. Magi finally enters the intercom and informs the ship what's going on, telling everyone to fight. Although they have knowledge of those aboard the boat, this doesn't mean they are strong enough to stop them. Following this attack, Babel hacks their ship and demands they stand down. Kyusuke watches this screen and laughs at it, but is forced to recognize their strength when a certain girl emerges. Kyusuke greets her as his queen, telling her she has grown nicely. Despite his kind greeting, Kyusuke attacks her suddenly, initiating the battle. Primarily using fire-type attacks, Kyusuke gives his opponent no room to attack. Andy, on the other hand, is around the boat with Fujura. He is teleported elsewhere by one of the 3 high school girls. With him now alone, he activates his limiter, prevents the other girls from landing any attacks on him. During this, Kyusuke continues his battle with his queen, neither side showing any weakness. Andy then gets captured by one of the girls, who is stunned that they can't activate their abilities on him. Andy recognizes the girls after hearing their names and calls Japan's elite force the children. With them being unable to use their powers, Andy runs his mouth asking what their plans are here. Acts high and mighty. Girls are still able to control glass and throw it at his body. He evades this, but allows the girls to get in close to turn his limiter on and inspect him. They look for some activation divide and find it on the squirrel instead of Andy. Andy then offers to guide the girls to the room, hoping to riz them up in the process. After following them, he is used as a shield in battle, giving Babel the advantage. They hack all of the boat's mainframes and redirect it to their direction. During this, Kyusuke and his queen still fight. He is forced to stop when he sees his boat headed straight towards another boat. With his boat hacked, Kyusuke goes to fetch Andy, asking why he is looking around the deeper parts of the boat. He takes Andy with him to the top and explains their plan moving forward. Kyusuke then goes to teleport into the basement to retrieve an item, so Andy grabs on, teleporting with him. Once they get down there, they enter a submarine and begin their attack on Babel's ship. During this, Andy is able to break into Babel's jail that jams the abilities of the members within. Following this, Kyusuke teleports everyone back to his boat just in time before the 3 girls emerge again. Kyusuke offers to deal with them, ordering Andy to get out of the boat while he can. While he is exiting, Andy finds a girl waiting for him who makes quick work with her ESP skills. As the director of Babel, she has high-ranking ESP skills, making Andy realize he stands no chance. He jumps into the water, then sneaks up on her and uses his ability for the first time. With the first ability negating anyone's ESP from a distance once he makes contact, he's able to disable all ESP powers for a moment time. Thanks to this, he is able to knock Babel's director down, break the device controlling his ship. After he does this, Minamoto emerges and orders Andy to stand down. Andy, however, doesn't falter. Kicking some trash and doing some quick movements, he is able to escape. Yusuke then teleports next to him and saves him, securing Andy's safety. Following this, Minamoto decides to back down, knowing that their attack is a failure. Then once Andy gets back on board, he is recognized for his efforts, telling him he is getting better. Babel, however, doesn't give up despite retreating. They launch another attack. The 3 girls' attacks being combined, they create a true queen, capable of pulling their entire boat back to shore. Kyusuke then asks Andy what the boat's name is, hinting at the main reason Pondra fights. He explains that they fight to find the perfect queen, with the head of the Babel girl being the perfect fit. Despite being unable to bring her over to his side, Kyusuke decides to still entertain her, removing his limiter. With this, his power truly shines, rivaling even the likes of the 3 girls combined. Eventually overpowers them, showing how much of a beast he truly is. Thanks to this, Pondra gets full control of their boat again, and they combine their ESP powers together to fly over the shore. With the huge boat reaching over the city, wonder how you can be so strong to control a boat of that size. Then, as magically as they appeared, they vanish into the horizon, leaving the 3 Babel girls to start crying. Being lost once again to Kyusuke, they ask Minamoto if they will ever be able to win against him. Minamoto comforts them, however, reminding them how much help they were in this operation. Episode 5. Following this, Pondra heads to Tokyo in order to complete a secret operation. Andy tries to pry into what this operation could be, but the older members still don't fully trust him. Entering a port is the broken-up ship owned by Kyusuke. Lots of damage done to the exterior, Kyusuke leaves it up to them to take care of the repairs. During this, all of the members of Pondra head around town and enjoy the amenities. Andy complains for having to carry all of the luggage, telling them they are just shopping. While he argues, Giri decides to run off, not wanting to feel like such a child. Meiji then orders Andy to follow her, telling him his ability will come in use if she needs protection. While Yugiri walks, people begin to think she is a lost child, wondering if they should help. Yugiri finds direction, however, going over to look at some nearby charms. Despite liking the charm, she is too broke to purchase any of them, forcing her to rely on Andy. Buys her a charm of her choosing, explains that she left him. As they walk back to the group, Yugiri stops for an amusement park, forcing Andy to invite her in. Yugiri tries to run in, but she is stopped by Andy, informing her they need to buy tickets. Kyusuke, on the other hand, enters the inside of a science facility. While he is exploring this facility, Andy finesses a sign restricting high-level espers by using his ability. With this, they enter the amusement park and forget the time, enjoying all the games. After some time, Andy becomes too relaxed and leaves Yugiri, causing some men to follow him. As he continues to wander around, Andy eventually confronts his pursuer, asking what Babel needs with him. Minamoto reveals he knows he is a U.S. informant, asking him for some help with something. Andy refuses to know what they are talking about, but once Fujiko, the Babel director, enters, he is forced to admit his occupation. He asks what they need from him, to which Babel tries to persuade him into selling information on Pandra. Fujiko then threatens Andy, telling him if he doesn't comply, they will reveal his identity. Andy then asks what they are after, to which Minamoto explains to him. After a recent war, Suke killed all the people working under Babel because one of them betrayed him. He denies it, but Fujiko reveals that Kyusuke used to work with Babel. They inform Andy that they are doing this for his own sake, Kyusuke's life being in danger. Following this, Kyusuke scans himself, assesses the damage within his brain. Yuri, on the flip side, decides to go and comfort a child who lost their parents. Despite her being all alone, she stayed brave and scanned the entire park for the child's parents. After displaying her powers, he is able to guide the child to his parents. Boy explains how Yugiri helped him, making the parents weary after learning she is an esper. Because of this occurrence, everyone seems to know she is a high-level esper, even going as far as to restrain her. However, once the policeman grabs hold of her, she is forced to reveal her true powers. She makes everything in the amusement park turn evil, striking fear into the guests. Everyone runs around in a panic. Sakaki tries to explain to the others that it is all an illusion. Andy then emerges and removes his limiter, allowing him to stop Yugiri from going out of control. Informs her everything will be all right, blaming the police officer for touching her. Following this, all of the guests in the facility frown down on the two, causing the others to arrive. Jai asks what happened. Seeing Yugiri laying on his stomach, he looks around and gets a gist of the situation, telling him it's time to leave. Once he activates his disabler, the members teleport away, leaving no trace of their extanence with them. Kyusuke, on the other hand, overlooks his queen, not revealing his identity as he does so. Despite the events that occurred today, everyone was able to make it back to the ship where they talked about an upcoming party. One of the members, Kanu, reveals why everyone calls each other family within Pandra. When she was a child, Maji appeared before her, saved her under Kyusuke's orders. Not only did Kyusuke save her, also saved Fujura, adopting them into his family. Nowhere to go, she accepted his invitation and has been with him ever since. She informs Andy that a majority of the members of Pandra were saved by Kyusuke. Following this, they present a cake for Kyusuke with his picture displayed across it. Eventually, they start the party with Kyusuke at the center of it. Maji presents to him his present, containing a book on how to be a good leader. Everyone else goes, presenting their gifts with various useless items Kyusuke will surely throw out. That is until Fugiri approaches and gives him a cute matching charm, praying for his safety. Kyusuke finally shows interest, but is sad when Andy informs him he didn't get him any gift. They tell Andy he can get Kyusuke a gift next year, making Kyusuke think about his scan results. With his brain having some kind of issue, Kyusuke wonders if he will even make it to the next year. During this, Andy, however, thinks to himself what he will be doing next year, knowing he won't still be aboard the boat. Episode 6. See, Andy has always been different, him never fitting in wherever he went. Despite being imprisoned by the U.S. government, he still decided to hear out what they had to say. Once the U.S. ESP faction contacted him, Andy instantly became a rat. He reports to his boss of almost everything, showing that Pandra has started to grow on him. During this, Meiji meets with Kyusuke, seems to be very worried about his health. Regardless, he continues forward, knowing if he doesn't make the change, there is no one there. Maji informs everyone of their next mission, to steal some kind of new technology. Yusuke informs the others that once they get what they are coming for, they will leave Japan for a while. Andy thinks about this and wonders if he will be able to do his duties outside of Japan. Yusuke notices this and asks what's good, but Magai saves him when he orders everyone to get moving. Yusuke, however, still isn't fully convinced, keeping an eye on Andy. Following this, they head to a bar where Andy gets smoked by Fujura in pool. After getting cooked, they talk about Babel, to which Andy asks about their founding. He's advised to ask Yusuke if he has any questions about them, him seeming to know everything. Following this, Yugiri enters the room asking for someone to tuck her in. No one wants to volunteer until Andy is assumed the role by the others. As he leaves, the others talk about how Andy is starting to fit in. He puts her back in bed and reads a nighttime story until she falls asleep. Before he leaves, however, the squirrel in her room tells him to return the book to the library. He does this. Upon inspecting the book, he finds a picture containing Babel members. While inspecting this picture, Kyusuke enters the room, forcing him to hide. While hiding, he witnesses Kyusuke summon a dead body and talk to it. Ghost talks comfortably, showing that Kyusuke and his relationship was friendly before he died. Kyusuke presents a blueprint to the man, asking him what he thinks of it. Upon inspection, he explains it as a way to stop all ESP powers by launching the technology into the sky. Kyusuke informs him that those are Pandra's plans, asking him for his help. Kyusuke informs him that his time is coming soon, but he can't die just yet. After showing his scar on his forehead, the ghost notices someone else within the library. Kyusuke says it was probably a rat, knowing he is actually referring to a rat. Andy, on the other hand, gets to the boat deck and realizes that he has lost his limiter. Following day, Kyusuke appears behind him while on the deck, kicking him into the water. He acts as if he doesn't know anything about its disappearance, despite knowing it was Andy. Andy reveals his hidden intentions once he also acts like he doesn't know how he lost it. Kyusuke decides not to say anything, or simply walks away. While doing so, Andy tells Kyusuke that he heard he was trying to make a perfect world for espers. Andy tells him it's impossible, to which Kyusuke asks him what he's trying to achieve then. After this, Andy gets frustrated with himself, so he relieves his mind by cleaning his weapon. With the utmost precision, he puts it back together piece by piece until he drops the gun with shaking hands. He remembers when he first picked up a gun, being trained by the man who scouted him. Andy thinks about this moment where he declared to himself that he would never back down from his mission. Following this, Andy calls his boss and informs him the next day he'll steal the item they need from Pandra. Andy also informs him that he is going to give information regarding Babel the following day in his report. Babel, on the other hand, looks upon the device Pandra is attempting to create, reminding themselves how much taking them down means to the world. Pandra, on the contrary, goes about their usual criminal activities. Today, being the day they rob some cargo, they are surprised when an incoming chopper emerges with ESP blockers. Following this, Babel members appear to reveal it's all a trap. Kyusuke doesn't stress, however, knowing that he will be able to come out fine either way. He asks how they knew of their plans, saying there must be a rat within. During this, Andy escapes his grasp to meet up with Sakaki, who gives him a vehicle to use. Kyusuke, on the other hand, faces his queen, who asks him to stand down, tells Kyusuke that he is doing something wrong, and he could bring chaos across the entire world. Despite the queen's efforts, Kyusuke refuses, causing him to receive an incoming attack from her. During his battle, despite his head injury, Kyusuke is forced to release his ultimate power, making the fight end the instant he did. Kyusuke savagely throws his queen around with his powers, showing her who the boss is. She eventually faints, forcing Kyusuke to relocate her, put her to bed for the night. Following this use of power, Kyusuke feels a tightness in his chest, feeling his time might be sooner than expected. Andy, however, doesn't involve himself in the battle, going to the ship to complete his mission. Finds Yugiri waiting for him, making him put a spot to his plans. Takes him a moment, but Andy gets her to go back to her room, leaving it just him in the room. Calls his boss and reports everything, advising his crew not to harm anyone on the boat. Confirms no one will be injured, which leaves Andy to go and inspect the device. Once he approaches, to his surprise, Kyusuke is waiting for him, having discovered his identity. Kyusuke informs him that he knew all along of his identity, calling the technology before him the boat's core. He asks how he knew. Kyusuke informs him that he doesn't need to know, today being his last day alive.